Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here for the hour, or every Friday, where we get together to talk about book marketing, publishing, and the business of being the author. Today, we are live at newshelves.com/FAF, and you are welcome to join us any Friday at 10 a.m., or you can email your questions into info@newshelves.com. We'll save those questions up, answer them live on Fridays, and our replays do go up on YouTube. That's simply youtube.com/New Shelves Books. So that can work out if the timing's not great for you for our live meeting. So today we actually have quite a few questions that came in by email, and I want to tackle those first. And the first big question is an interesting one about the New York Times bestseller list. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the New York Times bestseller list. As we know, the USA Today bestseller list kind of disappeared towards the end of November of 2022. So essentially what happened is they just said, hey, we're on hiatus and haven't posted much since. Most of us don't expect that list to come back. And what has happened is since the USA Today list is gone, more and more authors are trying to look into big lists to hit, and New York Times seems like the most obvious one. So here at New Shelves, we've been getting a lot of questions about the New York Times bestseller list. What does it take to hit it? How do you get there? All sorts of good things. So I do want to talk about that. The thing with the New York Times bestseller list is that typically you do have to sell more books than you did for USA Today. USA Today bestseller list did accept self-published titles, and also it was strictly a numbers game. So it was strictly based on sales that happened within 1 week. And typically you would need to make 3,000 to 5,000 sales in a week to hit that list. If you wanted to hit higher on the list, you would want 5,000 to 7,000 sales in a single week, including ebook and print book. And it was just simply sales. Now, you did have to have a certain percentage or number that came outside of Amazon, like from Barnes and Noble or a bookstore, but it was simply sales. Now, USA Today is gone, and New York Times is a little bit different. See, New York Times is a curated list. That means it's not simply based on sales, it's also based on popularity and curation. So when this happens in 1980, I think it was 1983, but in the 1980s, a author tried to sue New York Times because they had made kind of the quota of selling the most books in a week, but they didn't make the New York Times bestseller list because it's curated. And essentially the judge in this case ruled in favor of the New York Times because this list is considered free speech. It is kind of their own content. It's free speech. It's opinion. So the judge ruled that New York Times can curate their list if they want because it follows under free speech. So exactly how do people get on the New York Times list? That's a good question. Typically, if you want to get on the New York Times bestseller list, you need to be selling upward of 10,000 copies in a single week. Now, 10,000 copies is kind of the bottom. Ideally, if you want to get on the New York Times bestseller list, you want at least 10,000 copies coming from individual addresses and sellers. That means I directly went to Barnes and Noble and bought your book on my own. And then about 10,000, another 10,000 coming from bulk sales. So that's corporations buying books for their employees, that's school buying books, different things like that. So ideally, you want to hit 20,000 sales within 1 week. Now, they do put indie or self-published titles on the New York Times bestseller, but it's rare because it is required that you have traditional distribution. So you're not going to hit the New York Times if you're using print-on-demand models. You need to have full distribution and offset print of your book. So that means your book needs to be able to be bought by Baker & Taylor for libraries. It needs to be bought through Ingram. It needs to be able to be obviously Amazon, but all of your sales can't come from Amazon, just like they can't when we did USA Today. So we have to kind of split those sales up. But further than that, they do look at the sales. And then from the sales, what happens is a team over at New York Times goes and they look and they see how popular is this book? Are people talking about it? They're looking for social media hits. Has it shown up on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? They're also looking to see if there's news or information surrounding the author in the book. Have you been featured in news channels? Are you on blogs and on websites? Is your name popping up? If not, the chances of you making that curated list, even if you sell a whole lot of books, is very rare. So I'm not saying that as an indie author, you cannot make the New York Times bestseller list, because that's not true. However, it is a game and you've got to be able to play it. And to play it, you've got to have a whole lot of money. So the question I had specifically come in was, are there companies that you can pay that essentially guarantee you a spot on the New York Times bestseller list? Answers, yes and no. As always, right? It depends. So here's the thing. There are companies that you can pay that will help you get onto the New York Times bestseller list, but it's not guaranteed. So you go to them. Most of them you have to apply. You have to give them your book details in advance, and they're going to decide whether or not they think your book can make it. They're going to be looking at your cover, at your topic. They're going to be looking at how much money you have to spend, what your distribution is. And typically, just to take that look, just to give you the strategy, these companies are going to charge upwards of $50,000 to $20,000 just for that consultation and that strategy time. Then from there, these companies will say, look, we think you have a shot. If you do this, 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 and this, you have a shot. Now, they get paid just for their strategy, just for their hand in it. Just like New Shelves does for marketing, they do, but theirs is specific to New York Times and or that list, or that, they're trying to hit something specific. And typically these people at the end will be paid somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000 for their consulting to you. Now, with that, again, it's not guaranteed that you will make the New York Times bestseller list. It's simply them sharing their knowledge and helping you set up for the opportunity to make the New York Times bestseller list. Remember, it's all very curated. They may know people, but they really don't have a final say on that. And that $50,000 to $150,000 does not include your actual cost of publishing, printing, marketing, ads taken out in the media, PR team. It does not include any of that. So typical numbers when we're talking about what does it take to get on the New York Times bestseller list, typical numbers say that the publisher or the author is going to front upwards of $100,000. Many campaigns for those who make the New York Times bestseller and they didn't go viral or have a movie or something like that, many of those campaigns are guesstimated that they cost somewhere around the $1 million range. So if you have $1 million, or if you have $100,000 or $500,000, and you are willing to take that gamble, take that chance, because it's going to help you with your business, or it's going to help something further along than just hitting the New York Times, then you can do that. And are there companies that do that? Yeah, there are. Will I recommend them? No, I won't. You can Google them and you can find them for sure, but it's kind of something. Many of these companies, I won't say all of them, but many of these companies, the way that they help you hit your sales numbers, aside from your media and your PR and paying for placements and things like that, how they often will help authors and publishers meet their sales goals is by them actually buying the books, by these companies doing those bulk placements. They will go and they will work with a corporation and say, hey, if you buy $5,000 worth of this book, we'll reimburse you and it'll be free. So it's not always on the up and up. Now, I'm not saying every company does that. I'm not saying how every book gets to the New York Times is like that. However, that is something that often happens. So I don't feel good personally about recommending those. Can you find them? yes, you will have to put in a hefty investment even to be considered. So you need to know that. Um, and that's kind of the New York Times bestseller list. It is meant for people with deep pockets. It is curated. It is definitely geared towards traditional publishers. And that's how it is. And some indies do make it. If they go viral, if they get enough attention, if they get enough sales, they do make it. But it's not the same as, like I said, the USA Today, which was strictly based on sales. So that's kind of my take on the New York Times bestseller list. I know it's disheartening for authors because great, we have Amazon bestseller and we have Barnes and Noble bestseller, which is good, but it doesn't necessarily hold the same weight. But there are other bestseller lists you can hit. You can go for certain journals. Washington Post has a bestseller list. Some of the big newspapers still have different lists. So you can absolutely go for those as well. It's all about strategy and knowing why you want to hit these lists, what you're going to use it for. But I think it's something that we kind of need to demystify, especially in the indie space. I feel like we have these goals of hitting New York Times because who doesn't want a New York Times bestseller, right? Everyone does. But it's not necessarily as easy as just selling books or just hiring the right people for strategy and consulting. Like I tell my clients all the time, you know, I will give you the strategy, I will give you the best shot at sales, but I can't guarantee sales because I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to go and buy 100, 1,000, couple thousand copies of your book. So I can't guarantee your sales. It is you gambling on yourself when you invest in that kind of marketing. And for some people, it makes sense and they make it. And for some people, it makes sense to gamble and they don't make it and they eat that loss. So I think, as always, it comes down to you, your personal goals, and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm loving the chat over here where everyone's like, yeah, let me just pull out my $1 million. No problem. I know, you guys. I know it's crazy. Let's see. Yeah, so let's talk. This is another good question. And Scott, this was on my list as well. So most of you by now have seen that KDP print prices are going to be going up beginning June 20th. June 20th, print prices at KDP are going to be going up. And there was a lot of concern, a lot of like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But for the average person, your cost is going to be very negligible as far as what's going up. So when you're doing that, go look at the prices. If you go into your book setup on KDP, you go to the 3 little ellipses next to your book and you click on edit book price, I think is exactly what it says, but edit price of your book. When you're in your pricing list, it will say prices are going up June 20th. It will give you your old price and your new price. And it'll tell you what the difference is. I've been in a lot of accounts this week and most of the costs going up, especially for the average novel, adult book that's 6x9 or smaller and it's black and white. Most print cost is going up a matter of 10 to 30 cents per book. So it's really negligible and won't affect most people. As far as other books, what is going up is large size books. So if you have like a children's book and an 8x11 in color printing, your book might be going up more than a couple cents. If you have a workbook that's larger, that may be going up. So the people who will notice this price increase the most are those who have non-standard sizes, who have bigger children's book in color or who have like bigger workbooks. Your average 6x9, 5x8 novel, young adult, middle grade book is not going to be going up very much. And like I said, you can go right into your account, check your pricing increase, and then you have options. So if your price is only going up 15 cents, friends, I would not increase your sales price. If 15 cents is going to break you based on your current sales price, then you probably underpriced yourself to begin with. So 15 cents, I typically would not increase my cost. If you are losing $1, sure, then you probably want to up your price by $1. Now, this is, of course, up to you. If you're not earning profit because of whatever increase, you need to increase your book price. You can do that right in KDP. It's recommended you do it sooner rather than later. Like, don't wait for the increase on June 20th. Raise your prices now or do it June 1st. And there is an option in KDP. They are giving everyone the option for one time only in each account. One time before June 20th, you can go in, and when the pop-up warning comes up, there's an option where you can increase all of your book prices, and it allows you to increase all your book prices so you keep the same amount of profit after the increase. So if your book is going up 15 cents in print cost, they will raise your price by 15 cents. Now you're going to end up with a lot of wonky prices if you do that. Like, instead of your book being $9.99, it's going to be $10.14, which is kind of funky. But of course you can do that. And that is an option if you have a big backlist in KDP. But I'd check it. It's not as big of a deal as a lot of people have made it out to be. If you look at the numbers, it's really a small increase. So don't be too concerned about that. Yes, and if you have a price barcode and you're changing your price, you would need to update your price barcode. Absolutely. Lots of questions about TikTok possibly starting a publishing company. So yes, TikTok has registered, I think it was an LLC, but I could be wrong. They've essentially registered for a possible publishing company name. There have been some LinkedIn posts for editors and managing marketing people and all sorts of stuff on LinkedIn. So there is high speculation that TikTok will be starting a publishing company. They will be using their algorithms. They will be finding their authors based on people who already have big audiences and hit the algorithms on TikTok. So essentially, TikTok has built this massive sales platform, and they realize that they have a really good market for books, and they are thinking about capitalizing on it. Will they do it? We don't know. It looks like it. Will they be successful? We don't know. I have heard that some of the contract, they've actually started to make offers to some authors. I have not personally seen these offers or these contracts. I have heard, I've heard different responses. Some people say, yeah, it's pretty standard traditional publishing and it's a publishing deal. It's not bad. It's nothing amazing though. And then I've heard some people actually say it's a terrible deal. Who's to know? I don't know, probably just those people who actually have contracts, and that's not me. So we'll have to wait and see what happens if they do start publishing books, how it goes, what the quality is, what the standard is. But it's kind of interesting to watch and kind of keep an eye on to see how that pans out. Julie's asking, since the point of book marketing is to sell books, does showing an award on the cover increase the chance of being bought? So we actually talked about this, I think it was last week a little bit, because Nancy had a question about the same thing. So sometimes a book award can help catch the eye of buyers. The thing is that it's more likely to catch the eye of the average reader, not necessarily book buyers. When we're talking about our bookstores, our librarians, they are not as likely to be impressed by an award-winning book unless your book has won an award that is a big name award. If you win the Agatha Award, if you win the Newbery Award, they're going to be impressed by that. If you won a Reader's Choice Award, they're not impressed. So it's important to know that sometimes an award can help sell books to the average reader, but not necessarily to the buyer market. And here's something I see often is that if you are going to put an award on your book and you're going to use that in your marketing materials, you need to have your book cover file, like online on the computer, you need the book cover file, and you need to add a PNG with a transparent background of that award to your book cover file. You never, ever, ever want to take a picture of your book cover with the award sticker and use that. It's low quality, it doesn't show up well, and it will stand out in a negative light. So if you are going to market your book with a book award, make sure that you're actually updating and using a digital file, not taking a picture of the physical book with the award sticker on it. That's great for something like social media or Facebook, but that's never what you want to post on Amazon or what you want to send to libraries, bookstores, that kind of thing, because the quality of the photo just won't stand up and it will make your cover look a little homemade, which we don't want when we're marketing to buyers. And another question I had come in this week was about conferences. So you guys know I just got back from IBPA Pub U, which was fun. That was in California and San Diego. And I've been getting questions about like, okay, I'm convinced I want to go to a conference, but where do I go? So my first advice is tell me where you're going and let's go together because that'll be fun. But the next piece of advice is when you're looking for a conference, think about what you want to get out of a conference. Are you a publisher? Do you need to up your publishing game? Are you indie publishing and you want to learn more about the business side? IBPA's Pub U is great for that. If you are a crime or a mystery writer, you need to go to where the crime and mystery writers are because that's what they'll be focusing on. Not only craft and crime and mystery. I've been to Crime Bake in Boston, highly recommended. I think it's coming up, by the way, in the fall, but Crime Bake is for mystery and thriller writers. And that's what they focus on. The craft is all focused on that. They have guest experts coming in telling you about poisons and guest experts coming in telling you like what bodies look like after they've died and based on how they've died and things like that, because those are the things that are going to advance your craft if you're writing about murder mysteries or thrillers or things like that. And then they also focus on the marketing and the inspiration tied to that genre. If you want to do romance, then you need to go to a romance conference where they're going to talk about how to make swoon-worthy characters and the tropes that are currently trending and how to market on TikTok. So you need to make sure that when you're doing this, that you're actually focused on what you want to get out of it. And then friends, let's be honest, sometimes we're going, I don't have the budget to travel, so I want to find a conference that's close to me. And that's okay too. If that's you, simply Google writers conference or author conference with your state or your hometown. You will find a lot of things pop up. And so do it that way if you're looking to go close to home. And I mean, it just depends. Again, what are you trying to get out of a conference? That's what you specifically want to look for, because that's what you'll get the most out of. Now, I have to say, I've been to all sorts of conferences. I've spoken at all sorts of conferences. I've gone to regional conferences. I've gone to conferences for romance authors and for mystery writers, and I've gone to memoir conferences and all sorts of things. And I have to say that being there, you will get something out of all of these because they're, it's a good energy. They're talking about marketing and craft overall, and you will benefit, but you won't benefit nearly as much as if you find a conference specifically that is related to your genre, to your writing, or what you want to learn. So that's what I would recommend when looking for a conference. And if you find a really great one, let me know. Yeah, I know Shira is thinking about Killer Nashville in August, which I think is great. I'm actually going to Nashville in June. Not for a conference, just for fun. But yeah, absolutely. And if you find a conference that you think is awesome, tell me. I'd love to know about it. I do speak at a lot of conferences, but I also try to keep a list of conferences. So when people say, hey, do you know about a conference in Virginia? I can go, actually, I know a couple. Let me pull them up for you. So if you find a great conference or if you're part of a great conference, I'd love to hear about it. You can always email me just at Keri@nearshelves.com. Oh, see, and Bob saying there's a humor writing conference coming up at June 24th. Writer's Digest and Zoom. See, there's so many opportunities if you just look for even humor. Like, who thinks, oh yeah, of course there's a humor writing contest or conference, but there really are groups everywhere and they're fantastic. You can find online conferences and in-person conferences. I will say online conferences are great because they tend to be less expensive. They're very accessible. A lot of times you'll get recordings after the fact, but I will, with that said, if you have the chance to go to an in-person conference, I highly recommend it. There's something about the connections you make when you're eating lunch or when you're talking in the hall, or the energy of physically being there and having all of your attention on that conference because you're physically there. That is really so special. My favorite thing to do, I mean, I love going to conferences and sitting in and hearing the different trainings and things, but my favorite part of conferences is the camaraderie. It's finding people. It's like they're no strangers at a writers conference, by the way. It's like, oh, hey, there's an empty seat. I'm going to sit here for lunch and meet 10 different people I didn't know before. And it's all just a different environment. So it is a lot of fun. If you've never been to an in-person writers conference, I think it's invaluable. Let me see. So I think that's, yeah, absolutely fantastic. The other question that came up, and Felice had this question about AI narration for audiobooks. So AI narration for audiobooks is getting quite good. We'll be honest. We've talked about before about how Apple now does AI narration for some of their books, and they do allow AI narrated books to be sold on the Apple platform. However, you can't actually just upload AI narrated books to either ACX for Audible or to Find a Way Voices. They don't just take your own AI narrated books. And that is because a lot of sales platforms are still not accepting AI narration in books. So when you're thinking about investing in audiobook AI narration, because there are some very few free options, but the better narration is more expensive. You do have to pay for it. So when you're thinking about that, you're thinking, great, where am I going to use this? Please know you cannot just upload it to Find a Way Voices. You can't just upload it to Audible. At this moment in time, on May 19th, 2023, Audible does not accept, ACX and Audible do not accept any AI narration. They're not selling those books on their platforms. Now, Find a Way Voices does not allow you to upload your own AI narrated audiobook either. However, if you have ebooks with Draft to Digital, which is Find a Way Voices' sister company, if you have ebooks with them, you can apply to Apple AI narration through Draft to Digital for select titles. And what happens is they don't just allow you to say, yeah, I'd like to have my book AI narrated for Apple, and then poof, it's done. That's not how it works. What you do is if you have ebooks at Draft to Digital that are chosen or accepted, then you can apply to Apple AI narration. They will vet it. They will decide if they think it's a good fit. And if they do, Apple will actually do the AI narration for you. Here's the rub. That AI narrated book can only be for sale at Apple right now. It's not going to be for sale everywhere audiobooks are sold. It's just Apple. So I think that's important to know, that AI is still so new, you guys, and there's so much going on with copyright, and we're learning new things and things are getting better. And there's this push and pull of like, AI is Satan and AI is the only way to go, and AI makes it so we don't need humans, and that's not true. It's just like with anything, we need to really look at both sides. AI has a lot of potential to help advance, to help make people better writers, to help them write quicker. I mean, spell check is AI. Spell check is AI. So don't tell me you're not using AI, because we all use spell check. Predictive text is AI. Now, it is a simpler form of it, but it's AI. And so not all AI is bad. The problem is that with many things, it's the person who's using it and how they're using it. So if you're using AI to scrape the web, to plagiarize, and then to put a book out as your own, that's bad. But if you're using AI to bounce ideas off of, or to help you with your grammar, or for spell check, it's not bad. It actually is going to advance us and make us better writers. Now, do I think that spell check and Grammarly replace an editor? I sure do not. I think it helps us get our first draft out there, but there's something about a human that can actually check on things and read a nuance and things that I don't think will ever replace. So I would encourage you not to be too afraid of AI, but to learn to use it ethically. And I think that is what we're in the middle of right now, is how do we use it ethically? There's been a lot going on with AI cover generation, cover art and cover generation. And I've been a little skittish of that because honestly, there's so many copyright issues still where art and things like that are involved that we don't know. That's not going to go to court for years probably. And then it'll go to court. And what happens then when it's, copyright infringement, and then you're on the hook for the 50 covers that you used? I think that we won't know for a couple years to come exactly how, but I think it's all about not avoiding AI or vilifying AI, but learning the benefits of it and learning how to use it ethically. And I would encourage all of us to dive in, to learn, to read, to watch videos, to discover, because it is part of our future. But if we're part of the conversation, we get to decide. In part, we get to be a part of the movement to decide how it's used and what's acceptable and what's not. So I think that's important. See, can you upload audiobook on Findaway and ACX as well? Yes, you sure can. So you can upload an audiobook directly to ACX and do it non-exclusive ACX for Audible, and you will get you go through them directly and you can do that. You get a little bit more control on Audible. Then you can take your book to Findaway Voices, upload there, and just exclude Audible and Amazon distribution. So you can absolutely do that. You just wouldn't use Findaway Voices for Audible. And on ACX, you must be non-exclusive, which means you have to upload your own files. You can't be doing a royalty share or anything like that. Yeah. And I love the feedback we're getting on AI about how people are using stuff for their sermon writing and how it's made them better, and also things about how different aspects are just making them better. Caroline saying she uses QuickWrite to just give her an outline for a description for Amazon because she doesn't like to look at a blank screen, and how it helps her that way. And so I think that's what it is that AI can be a helper. AI should not be a replacement, but it absolutely can be a helper. And I think if we allow it to be, we can do good things with it. I think it really just depends on responsible use, just like many things. I mean, we talk about that with medicine and alcohol and all sorts of different things. Is it inherently bad? Not necessarily, but it is very much based on how we use it and if we use it appropriately or not. And if we don't use it appropriately, then that's where the problems come in, because we haven't acted responsibly. So as I often say, this is why we can't have nice things. Well, that's kind of how I feel, is that if we do it in such a way that we can have nice things, then it'll be fine. And I saw a question come in about QuickWrite, which is what Caroline is using. I'm going to drop in a link. It's absolutely affiliate link. I always tell you guys when it is, but I just dropped in a link for QuickWrite, which is AI specifically for authors, and they've got fiction and nonfiction. This is an AI tool that I've been playing around with, and several clients have, and they really like it. And they are going up in price. See, this is what we're finding with AI too, is a lot of the AI tools that were free, they're free, and then they start to go, oh, well, now it's not free anymore. Once they hook you and get people into it, then the price goes up, or it goes from free to having a subscription and different things like that, because they were testing the market. And now they're like, okay, we have the market, this is a good product, and they start charging for it. So I did drop in the link for QuickWrite. If you're interested in finding more about that, it's in the chat box. And you can check that out. That price is a one-time fee for lifetime access. And I know they are moving over to a monthly subscription model. So I know that's coming up if you want to get the one time. Let's see. I'm writing my one page for marketing my How to Preach book to Bible schools and seminaries. Do I need to put a call to action at the end of it, or might that be insulting? I'm thinking of saying, choose this book for your preaching students. It will help them. Same question regarding a one page to librarians. Should I put a call to action? So I think, Pam, and anyone who works within churches or seminary, anything like that in the chat, because I know we have some, feel free to drop your comments in the chat. But I think a call to action is fine, but I think it's all about smart call to action. When you do your description, I mean, this is like our Amazon sales page and everything. Yeah, you do want them to buy your book. But I think the way that we get there and the way that we get to a natural call to action for a book that's meant to help people is that we build in why it's helpful for them. Not buy my book, but I wrote this book with a passion to help seminary students, and I believe that it does so. Buy the book and, discover blah, blah, blah. So I think it's all about how you put it in there, making sure that, especially for this type of book that's meant to help people, that the call to action is delivered with a sense of realness and also with, I truly believe it'll help you. So I think it matters. Yeah. I mean, if you think your book will truly help seminary students, then I think you can absolutely say, this book will be an invaluable tool for seminary students. Buy it today. I think that makes sense because it's true. It's all in the delivery though. All right. I have my questions down here today, which is why I keep looking down. Another question or topic that came up was around, look, I don't know what I did here. Another question that came up was around Spotify, speaking of audiobooks. So Spotify just announced that they have done away with or are doing away with their distribution fee for audiobooks on Spotify. So if you're using Findaway Voices, Spotify owns Findaway Voices, and if you're using Findaway Voices to distribute your audiobooks, Spotify has now gotten rid of their distribution fee for audiobooks on Spotify, which means that I believe Spotify is now giving the highest royalty share to authors for audiobooks out of any other platform. So really happy with that. Spotify has definitely tried to make a space and be a part of audiobook and audiobook distribution. Brandon Sanderson's been working with them for better terms for authors. Because here's the thing, when we talk about ebook sales, which is a digital asset, ebook sales, typically the author earns a 70% royalty, typically 70%, or the publisher, I should say. The author, it depends, but you have a higher royalty rate. So for publishers, 70% royalty rate on ebooks. But when we talk about audiobooks through ACX or Audible, you earn way less royalty. It's still a digital asset. It's still essentially the same delivery, but on Audible, if you are non-exclusive, you only earn a 25% royalty, almost a third of what you earn on ebooks, which again, it's another digital asset. If you are exclusive to Audible, you can get a 40% royalty, but not everyone's exclusive. And I actually think that going wide with your audiobooks is a great idea, but then you're only earning like a 25% royalty. Why is it so much less than you get on ebooks? It's a really good question. And I think authors are asking that. Audiobooks actually cost more to produce than ebooks do, more goes into it. And so, yeah, it's a growing market, but I think authors are also looking for better terms. And like I said, Brandon Sanderson has been pushing for that. It's why he's done some exclusive deals with Spotify, and now Spotify getting rid of these distribution fees and offering authors who use Findaway Voices a bigger royalty share is a great step. And I think it's good. I do think it's also I mean, I think it's wonderful and great, and thank you, Spotify, but I also think it's a smart play to try to get some business from Audible exclusives. I think that's part of it as well. I think it's a business decision that's very strategic. Um, Going back to Amazon, though, it was just announced that Kindle Unlimited is going to be raising their prices. Currently, Kindle Unlimited, which is a ebook subscription service, kind of like Netflix for books, where you can read as many books as you want that are on Kindle Unlimited for free. I mean, your monthly subscription every month. And it's been $9.99, and that price is going up to $11.99. So we're going to see a $2 increase in Kindle Unlimited. Now, I will say for people who really use Kindle Unlimited, I don't think it's going to make them stop having Kindle Unlimited. I think that they're going to keep it, because if you are a really voracious reader, if you're reading a book every day, every 2 days, well, even a cheap ebook, let's say it's $2 for an ebook, if you're reading 15 of them in a month, that's $30. And that's if it's a cheap ebook, if it's $2. If you are reading every other day, or let's just say you're reading 5, if you're reading 5 ebooks in a week, I think I've been like using my wrong terminology. If you're reading 5 ebooks in a month, not a week, although you can, if you're reading 5 books in a month and the average price is $2 to $3, then you're about breaking even. If you're reading more than that, then you're still up on top. So there is a price increase. I don't think we're going to see a mass exodus from Kindle Unlimited. I think a lot of people will keep their subscription, just like we have for Netflix and all the other things that have gone up. What I do intend to watch, and what I do think is interesting, is that Kindle Unlimited is increasing their price to $11.99, just about the same time that Kobo Plus has come to the US and the UK. And Kobo Plus in the US and UK is only $7.99 per month. Now, there are not as many titles in Kobo Plus, but Kobo Plus is also a reading subscription service, and it does not require authors to be exclusive. So with Kobo Plus at $7.99 a month, will readers start to shift loyalties and give Kobo Plus a try to find a different reading pool, as well as pay less? I mean, it was only $2 less, but now it's more. I believe the pricing for Kobo Plus, if you're doing ebooks and audiobooks, is $9.99, which is really, really affordable, considering that I believe Kindle Unlimited is going from $9.99 to $11.99. And then I believe that Audible is, if you want Audible, you get 1 credit a month. Now, there are some books that you can read for free and all that kind of stuff, or listen to for free. But for 1 credit a month on Audible, you pay, I believe, $14.99 a month. So if you're doing ebooks and audiobooks, you're going to be looking at spending almost $30 a month on Kindle or Amazon. And if Kobo Plus can compare at a third of the price, I think we're going to see some loyalties from customers change. So I'll be interested to see how that pans out, and if we start to see kind of a shift there. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So Caroline's talking about AI, if your books are up on Scribd, that has been the 3rd largest contributor to machine learning, according to some sources. So I think that's interesting. I think a lot of companies are involved in machine learning. I will say that even though, as of, I believe it was last month, I haven't checked it this month, but even though Findaway Voices, it met with SAG-AFTRA and all that stuff over the machine learning on audiobooks, even though Apple and Findaway Voices and SAG-AFTRA all agreed that machine learning would stop, that books would be pulled from that. When I checked the terms for like new updated terms for machine learning on a Findaway Voice agreement in April, it still was in there. That clause for machine learning was still in there. It had not been removed. To my knowledge, it hasn't been. So I'm still watching that, because I think sometimes it's interesting to see what happens after the hype goes down. if action is actually taken. And so I think that's interesting as well. I don't know. I think, and like I said, AI is such a player right now. I think that people have to dip their toes into it, but not everyone's doing it as ethically as other places. And I think there's a lot of loopholes. I also think that there are a lot of things that people are probably doing that they don't have to publicly mention and that kind of stuff. And it's very, very interesting to see what's happening with it. And we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye on how things go as we move forward. Let me see. I think that was all of our questions that we had emailed in. So if you have any last minute questions, we've got a couple more minutes. Feel free to drop them in the Q&A. Something I wanted to talk about was the idea of writing a book description, because I've run into this a couple times. I've either workshopped or actually written marketing copy for 7 books this week, which I mean, I do occasionally, but I don't usually do so many. And when I say this week, I mean the last 2 days. I've worked on 7 book descriptions and either workshopped them or completely wrote them or took a synopsis and totally changed it. And I want to remind you guys that when we're writing marketing copy for our books, whether it be back cover copy or copy on Amazon, that we really have to hook the reader really, really quickly. We've got about 4 seconds to hook them once they get to your page. So you better have essentially like a newspaper headline that makes them, get whiplash as they're trying to pay attention to your book so they stay on point in the story. And then you've got to jump right into the story and give them plot points. Tell them what's going to happen in the story. Do not try to hold back. Do not be afraid to tell people what's going to happen in the story. Tell them why they want to read this book. Tell them the story. Now, don't give them all the little nuggets and the surprise ending, but do absolutely give them enough of the story that they've got an investment and an interest in the characters and they want to say yes and click that button and buy the book. I think that is so important. Shira over here. Shira has seen my madness when I'm working on a book description. We've done a couple live, and I'm always like, look, it's gonna make no sense to you. You're gonna wanna tell me I'm doing it wrong, and you're gonna be like, no, that's not it. Just let me work. And we'll share a screen on Zoom with a Word or a Google Doc open. And I'm like, all right, tell me about the story, and I'll write things and I'll change things. And somehow, like a mad scientist, it turns out good. But that's part of it also, is kind of stepping back. Sometimes you know your story too much and you need someone who doesn't know every little detail of your story that you might getting hooked up on, to go, oh, wait, you keep talking about he, but who's he? And then you go, well, James, the main character. Like, we've never mentioned James. I don't know who James is. Who is this? Because you automatically fill in details in your head because you know them. So I think that's different. Yeah, and great question, George. So when we're talking about nonfiction books, kind of the same thing. You have seconds to hook them and you need that headline. But in nonfiction books, you constantly have to think to yourself, what is the reader getting out of my book? Why do they need my book? And what are they getting out of it? Bullet points for nonfiction, especially if it's self-help, bullet points are your friend. Tell me what I'm getting. And also, especially if it's like self-help or even sometimes memoir, it's really important that we make an emotional connection. Tell me I'm seen. Don't just say, this book will help you manage your time better. Great, fantastic. Well, I already feel like crap because I don't manage my time better. So give me empathy first. Do you find that you are always left short at the end of a day, that you don't have enough hours, even though you feel like you planned really well? Girlfriend, you are not alone. This book will help show you how to manage your time in a realistic way by setting yourself up for success. That makes me feel like, okay, I'm seen. I'm not going to be like fussed at, and I'm going to get help. That's the difference, is that we have to lead with the problem and then tell them why you're the answer. If you're talking about memoir, then invite us into that story. Tell me why I want to read that story. Like, okay, your life was interesting, but why do I care and why do I want to read it? When you allow us to experience struggle and triumph with you, That is something that we love. That is something we want, human connection. We want these success stories. This is why like tearjerker movies and documentaries and all that thing, that is why we watch them. That is why Disney has taken every athlete that's ever had a hard time and like couldn't buy shoes and then made it to the NBA. That's why they write these stories, is because we feel them. And that's what's important with memoir. Why do I care? Make me feel and make me want to cheer for you. And I think those are kind of the things. And it will depend if this is a textbook. I mean, it's going to be a little bit different, but if it's a textbook, are you speaking to the teacher? You know, are your kids struggling to learn the concepts of whatever this is? This book will break it down in a easy and meaningful way, reducing frustration for both teachers and students. Again, find the need, acknowledge it, and then fill it. Julie, I will do that. It's on my schedule. All right. One more question that we had, and it was, I believe, emailed in. I saw it, Laura, kind of at the end, was about a distributor and changing your book price before a distributor, but not knowing how much you can change your price because a distributor is going to charge money. How can you find out the fees? So if you're looking for a book distributor and you know your book price is a little high, what you want to do is you don't want to change your book price up first if you're worried about distribution fees and how that will affect your bottom line. What you want to do is you want to approach a distributor with your current price and tell them the pricing is in consideration for a reduction. However, I do need to discuss terms and financial costs involved of distribution before I can finalize that price. So you don't want to reduce it first. You want to tell them that you realize it may be high and you're considering that, but you need more information and some more cost from them before you can jump in. All right, you guys, it's right at, oops. Oh, I love it. All right, we are right at the end. It's right at 11 a.m. So you guys, it was so good to see you here. We'll be back next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I hope you join us live. If you can't, send in your questions, info@newshelves.com. And if you would, do me a solid, go to YouTube, find New Shelves Books. It's youtube.com/New Shelves Books. Hit subscribe. You'll get notifications of replays and special how-to videos. And I always appreciate it. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week and have a beautiful weekend. Bye-bye.